All right, let's do this. Time for a deep dive. And today we're tackling notary publics in North Carolina.
Ooh, exciting stuff.
It is. And to guide us, well, we've got the 2024 Notary Manual, fresh from the NC Secretary of State's office.
Excellent source.
Right. You know how you see those notary public signs everywhere?
Oh, yeah. You just kind of, I don't know, glance at them.
Exactly. But, like, what if knowing about notaries could actually, like, save you from a huge headache, say, with identity theft, when you're buying a house, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, notaries, they're key in preventing fraud. Like,
Mm.
they're the guardians of authenticity,
Yeah.
making sure those signatures are the real deal
Yeah.
and that everyone's acting freely, not being forced into anything.
Okay, that makes way more sense than just, like, stamping a document, right?
Way more to it.
So, like, imagine I need something notarized right now. Where do I even begin? Is it like a scavenger hunt to find a notary?
No. Thankfully not. The Secretary of State's website has got a fantastic Find a Notary tool. Yeah. You can search by county. You can search by their availability, languages spoken even. You can even find notaries who offer electronic notarization.
Hold on, electronic notarization. So, like, I wouldn't even have to leave my house.
Exactly.
That sounds way too futuristic for something involving, like, notaries,
It does. It does.
If-
Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie almost. But it's becoming more and more common, that's for sure.
Okay, color me intrigued. We'll have to dive deeper into that later.
Definitely.
But first, like, what if I wanted to become a notary? Are we talking, like, years of law school here?
No, not quite that intense. The manual, it lays it all out, the qualifications. You got to be a U.S. citizen, of course, a North Carolina resident, got to meet the age requirement, and got to have a clean record, No
Sure.
felony convictions.
All right, so far so good. But there's got to be some kind of test, right? Like a pop quiz on super obscure legal terms.
There is a test, but it's not as scary as you might think. It's 20 true or false questions, all based on the notary manual. And get this, the manual actually tells you what to do if you don't pass,
Mm-hmm.
like take a refresher course, things like
Yeah,
that.
that's good. They want you to succeed.
Yeah, they really do.
Speaking of wanting people to succeed, the manual, it mentioned a test exemption qualification.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Okay, so this is where things get interesting. Now, this exemption, it could apply to you if you answer yes to any of these three questions. Okay, so first one, were you commissioned as a notary in North Carolina on or before July 10th, 1991?
Whoa, 1991. Like, if you've been a notary since the days of cassette tapes, you might not have to take the test. But, I mean, what if the rules have, like, completely changed since then?
Yeah, that's a valid point, but it seems they really trust the experience of these longtime notaries.
Okay.
Second question is, has your notary commission been continuous since your initial appointment? So no gaps in service.
Gotcha. So consistency is key. All right, what's the final question?
It asks if you've ever had any disciplinary action taken against your commission by the Secretary of State's office.
Uh-oh.
Basically, if you've been a model notary, meet the other requirements, you might get to skip that test altogether.
Wow, so basically a reward for good behavior. Not a bad deal at all. Okay, remember that e-notary thing we talked about?
I do, yeah.
What exactly is electronic notarization?
Imagine this. You're buying a house,
Right.
but instead of all the paperwork and scheduling meetings, you're doing it all online. That's the magic of e-notarization. Sign and notarize documents electronically makes the whole process super convenient. And secure, of course.
So no more like frantically searching for a printer at the last minute.
Exactly. And the manual, it even lists approved e-notary solution providers. So pretty helpful for anyone exploring, this digital frontier.
Okay, so we've covered how notaries prevent fraud, make sure everything's legit. We've demystified finding a notary.
Yeah.
And we even touched on this like futuristic world of e-notarization. I'm feeling like a notary ninja over here. But, I mean, this is just the beginning, right? There's more to uncover in this mysterious notary manual.
Oh, absolutely. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve into some of the specialized resources and programs the manual highlights,
Right.
like a notary journal template and something called the Electronic Commerce Pilot Program. Things are going to get really interesting.
Ooh, can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive. We're getting into all the ins and outs of North Carolina notaries.
Part 2.
Part 2, exactly. We've uncovered some interesting stuff so far.
Wow.
This manual, it's like full of secrets still, right?
Oh, yeah.
What other like hidden treasures are in these pages?
Okay, well, get ready. because we're going beyond the basics now. We're going to explore how notaries are becoming even more important, especially in this like digital age we're in. This manual, it's like, I don't know, a Swiss Army knife of legal resources. And we're going to unpack some of the most useful tools.
Okay, you got my attention. What kind of resources?
All right, so picture this. You need a specific form for notarization,
Yeah.
like an affidavit or an acknowledgement, right? You don't have to go searching for the right document. The manual, it's got downloadable notary certificates for all kinds of situations.
Wow, so it's like one-stop shop for all things notary.
Exactly. And it gets even better. They even have a template for a notary journal.
A notary journal? What's that?
It's like a captain's log, but for notaries.
Yeah.
Helps them keep track of all their actions, dates, times, you name it.
Oh, that's smart. Makes sense to have a detailed record, right?
Absolutely. Especially if there are ever any, questions or disputes later on.
Right,
Oh.
right. But you mentioned intriguing programs, too. What about those? What really caught your eye?
Oh, there's one that stands out, the Electronic Commerce Pilot Program.
Okay.
It shows how North Carolina, they're really trying to be a leader in e-commerce. This program's all about exploring electronic signatures, notarization, recording, the whole 9 yards.
So they're not just keeping up with technology. They're trying to be, like, ahead of the curve. What does that mean for, like, regular people?
Well, imagine you could buy a house, sign contracts, even start a business, all online. But knowing that everything's just as secure, just as legally sound as, like, the traditional methods.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. Super efficient, too.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the notaries themselves for a minute. Is there, like, a system to make sure they're actually following the rules, not, going rogue with their stamp?
That's where the enforcement and complaint section comes in.
Oh.
Yeah, the manual, it outlines this whole system to deal with notary misconduct.
Notary misconduct. Now, I'm curious, what would that even look like?
Well, notaries, they hold a position of trust, right?
Right.
Any breach of that trust, it's taken seriously. We're talking improperly verifying identities, not ensuring signers are willing, even fraudulent activities.
Yeah, okay, that's definitely not good. So what happens if someone, like, suspects a notary is doing something wrong?
The manual, it clearly lays out the process for filing complaints.
Yeah.
And the potential consequences for notaries who break the rules. It's all about accountability, keeping the whole notarization process legit.
That's good, that's good. But this manual is full of surprises.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that notaries in North Carolina can handle filings for assumed business names. What's that all about?
Okay, so let's say you want to start a side hustle, a baking business, let's say.
Yeah.
Right. But you want to use a catchy name, like the sweetest treat, instead of your real name. A notary can actually help you file that assumed business name legally.
So they're not just validating signatures, they're helping people launch their dream businesses. That's amazing.
Exactly. It's a really helpful service that honestly a lot of people probably don't even know about. But there's one more like hidden gem in this manual I found super fascinating. The Register of Deeds Access.
Register of Deeds Access sounds mysterious.
It's basically this online portal. It unlocks all this information about real estate records, property ownership details, deeds, mortgages, that kind of thing. You can even uncover the history of your house or like your whole neighborhood.
So you could see who owned your house like 100 years ago. That's awesome. This notary manual, it's way more interesting than I ever thought.
Right. It's full of surprises. And we've only just scratched the surface of, what notaries do and how they fit into our modern world. But before we move on, let's connect this back to the listener.
That's a good point. It's easy to get lost in all these details, but why should our listeners care about all this?
Well, think about it. If you're buying your first home, a notary's there to protect you from fraud, make sure everything's legit. Or maybe you're starting a business. A notary can help you with the legal side of things. Even if you just need a simple document notarized, understanding the process can make your life a lot easier.
Okay, now I see the bigger picture. It's not just about stamps and signatures. It's about, like, peace of mind, knowing your legal stuff is in order. But I have a feeling there's more to this story, right?
There is. We've explored the traditional role of notaries and the expanding digital landscape, but there's one final thought-provoking question we need to address.
Welcome back. We're wrapping up our deep dive into North Carolina notaries.
The grand finale.
It is. We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? From the basics to all the surprisingly techie stuff. I'm starting to think notaries are like the secret superheroes of the legal world.
I like that. They may not wear capes, but they're definitely crucial in protecting people, making sure things run smoothly.
Right. But before we wrap up, you mentioned a final question, a thought-provoking one. Something about, like, the future of notaries.
Yeah, yeah. We talked about how North Carolina is really embracing e-commerce and digital notarization, right?
Right.
Technology is changing everything, but it raises a big question.
Yeah.
How will these changes impact, the traditional role of a notary public?
Hmm. That's a really good question. It does seem like we're moving towards a more digital world. So does that mean like the physical notary, they're going to become obsolete? Will those little notary public signs just like vanish?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think it's more likely their role will like evolve, not just
Right.
disappear. I mean, think about it. Even with all the e-commerce out there will always be times when you need physical documents
Mm.
and in-person interactions.
True, true. Not everything can be done online, at least not yet. But what about the notaries themselves? Like what kind of new skills or knowledge will they need to, succeed in this changing world?
Well, they'll definitely need to be comfortable with technology, that's for sure. Familiar with how electronic notarization works, all the details. But I think those core skills, those will always be important. Attention to detail, impartiality, building trust, that kind of thing.
Right, right. So it's not just about learning the new tech, it's about applying like those fundamental values to a new way of doing things.
Exactly. And as the digital world keeps evolving, we'll probably see new challenges,
Yeah.
new opportunities. For notaries, cybersecurity, for example, that's going to become even more important as more sensitive information is handled electronically.
So maybe notaries will need those superhero capes after all, at least in the digital world.
Maybe, maybe. But seriously, the future of notarization is probably going to be this fascinating mix of tradition and innovation, and we'll all be a part of it in some way.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners then? What should they do with all this newfound knowledge about notaries?
Well, first of all, don't underestimate how important they are. Notaries, they're vital in protecting your interests, making sure your legal stuff is all squared away.
Exactly. They're not just like people with stamps. They're the guardians of authenticity, protectors of signatures, champions of legal paperwork.
That's a good way to put it. And as we move towards a more digital world, remember that e-notarization, it's becoming more and more convenient and secure. So don't be afraid to explore those services if you need them.
Right, right. And if anyone's ever in doubt or just curious, the North Carolina Secretary of State's website, it's an amazing resource. You can find everything there. The full notary manual, info on finding a notary, becoming one yourself, even just brushing up on your notary knowledge.
It's a fantastic resource. I definitely recommend checking it out. But most importantly, stay curious. Keep learning. The world of notaries, it's constantly changing, just like everything else in our lives. And the more we understand, the better equipped we'll be to, navigate the legal world and protect ourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's a perfect way to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of North Carolina notaries. It's been enlightening.
It has. My pleasure. And remember, knowledge is power. Keep exploring. Keep asking those questions and never stop learning.